Record. All right. Well, welcome to the first meeting of 2019 for Rochester Xamarin. And this is first time we're meeting in about over a year. And I wanted to thank everyone for showing up to our meeting. This one's going to be a little informal from how I'd like things to run as we get some of our organizational bugs worked out. But thanks for coming. So all of our sessions are going to kind of follow this the agenda format that I put out, where we're going to welcome everyone here and kind of go through this month in tech and then go into the presentation. So I have a couple announcements, even though this is the first meeting, that I wanted to share with everyone. The end of last year, I was given ownership of the Rochester Xamarin Meetup account, and I have some contacts over at the .NET Foundation. And when I was given ownership of it, I immediately talked with them, and they graciously accepted our user group into the .NET Foundation. So now we are part of the .NET Foundation network of user groups, which covers the cost of our Meetup account, and it will get us connected with their advertising to get more people interested in showing up to our user group, and other things such as that. So that was my big announcement for the user group. As far as other general community announcements that I wanted to share with people, if you attended Microsoft Connect at the end of the year virtually, they made a couple of .NET Foundation announcements that, or the big one was they opened up general membership to open source contributors, which is a pretty big deal. And if you have contributed to Xamarin or another .NET Foundation project, I would urge you to apply to become a member. I personally filled out my application the other day to hopefully get membership for that, but I would urge you to do that if you're interested in it. Those were my announcements. Did anyone have any community announcements they wanted to share before we get too far ahead?
I had a question.
Yes.
So you got hooked into .NET Foundation. Did you have a personal contact, or did you just go through the form that they had available for that?
I have a personal contact. So are you thinking about for your user group?
Yeah, we're part of it, but it's been really hit and miss how many times they put our user group meeting on the actual official announcement, and we do notice that it really boosts how many attendees we get. We'll get about 30% more when our meetup is listed on the list, and that's in-person people. That doesn't count online.
Right. Which list are you talking about? Are you talking about the one on the Xamarin blog, or are you talking about the meetup list?
The one on the Xamarin blog and the one that they tweet. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. In my experience with that one, you gotta post that on Twitter, which I know you guys do, and it needs to get in front of the right person. I don't know exactly who the contact is, but I believe it's Chris or Clint Patterson was the person I spoke with at .NET Foundation. They got stuff set up, so I would start.
I think it's Jamie Singleton who runs the social media over there. And I know I've been in touch with her, but it's kind of up in the air. So yeah, I've had questions too. I've been involved with the Edmonton .NET Meetup group, and they're kind of confused at the direction Microsoft's taken in terms of community engagement. It's changed quite a bit over the last few years since the focus has switched to Azure. So just wondering if you had any information that I didn't. No. Sounds like you might have some contacts that might hit you up for that.
Yeah, definitely shoot me a message, and I can give you some of my contacts over the .NET Foundation. They have been extremely helpful with a lot of the things that I've, not just with this user group, but other stuff I've been doing in the community, and they've been very, very quickly to respond to my questions.
Great, cool.
All right. Anyone have any other things that they need to talk about before we get going? No? All right. So, like I said at the beginning, this is going to be kind of an informal presentation today. I'm going to be doing a little presentation on the Xamarin.Forms TitleView, which allows us to do navigation bar customization. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Andrew Hoefling. I run my own small consulting business focusing on mobile web cloud solutions, and I've been doing a lot in the Xamarin space. And I've been working on a small app right now for a conference that's taking place next month, and I was able to leverage some of the new features in Xamarin.Forms to help build some really robust navigation bar or really robust view for the navigation bar. And so my presentation is going to be 100% a coding demo. And since this is such a small group, if you got questions or want to try something along the way, let's stop, let's try it, and go from there. One other thing, if you are interested, I also released a blog article this morning on this solution itself. I'll share this link in the chat if you wanted to follow along while I go through the demo. But this kind of outlines what we're going to be doing today. Okay. So I already loaded up Visual Studio, and I have a blank Xamarin.Forms project here. So I went with the default name, App1. All right, so let's just load that up in our emulator and make sure the app's running. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to show you kind of where we came from and with navigation bars and how easy it is now. So our app's running, which is good. So the first thing first, I relaunched the app because I didn't want to shut it down that early, is you'll notice that there's no navigation bar when you first open up a Xamarin.Forms or create a Xamarin.Forms project. It just says, welcome to Xamarin.Forms with a white screen. So this is our starter app right here. So we start the debugger and we add to the entry point of our application. That's going to be in the app.xaml.cs file. The main page is where we initialize our cycle, and what you can do to create your navigation bar is you'll just do new navigation bar. How's it navigation page? It's navigation bar. No, it's totally navigation page. There we go. This is your new navigation page, and then you put inside of that in the constructor parameters your new main page, and that'll get us our navigation bar at the top of our screen. So let's run that and see what that does. And before I get, all right. So now we have this blue bar up here at the top, and I'm curious, has anyone here built a custom renderer to do custom navigation bars before?
I've played with it, mostly to intercept the back button.
Gotcha.
Because yeah, that's the only way to get at that back button is to use a custom renderer that uses like a fake back button or a complete custom one.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things, like I guess one of the backstory for this is I was on top of that app I mentioned in the beginning. I was working on another app earlier last year, and we needed to do multi-line text titles in our navigation bar. I needed to do add special icons in it, and really stuff that kind of went outside the scope of the normal navigation bar. But we're not going to go into the custom renders because that's just complicated. So now we have our navigation bar showing up in our app. To add a title to it, it's as simply as coming in here, and I can specify title, and we'll say Rochester Xamarin. And this is the basic way to add some type of text to the navigation bar. Once that loads up, all right. So now we have Rochester Xamarin showing up in the title, and we're starting to customize it, but there's a lot of limitations to what we can do right now. One of the features that we were able to use before was I could add toolbar items, for example. So I do content page toolbar item. Let's say toolbar item. Let's say text. Let's say we're going to have a next button to go to the next page. And this is how I've written them in the past to start getting different getting different icons and such on the navigation bar. And you start getting really limited in customizations. Now, if you have a pretty standard app that can leverage stuff, then you might not need to go as far as we're going. But now we have a next button up here. I can wire up a command to it or an event handler to do stuff. But this is kind of pretty bland for an app. So let's take a look at the title view. The title view is what we're going to be talking about, and that is a new feature released in Xamarin 3.2 that allows us to really customize the navigation bar. So if we open up we type in content page, that should be title view. And we'll say Rochester Xamarin. I think I got the syntax for that wrong. That's what it is. Navigation page title view. My mistake. Let's fix that. I didn't say I had these things memorized. All right. So now let's take a closer look at the XAML that we're writing here. So as you build out your page, you have these different sections of your XAML that you can start adding different layout elements to. Right now we have our content down here. What's really happening down here, it's implied, and I'm going to be really explicit for our demo here, is that content's going to be wrapped in a content section. So inside of your content page, you're allowed to have these different sections. You could have resources. A second ago, we just did the toolbars section. So now we're allowed to add navigation page title view to create a new view inside of our navigation bar that'll allow you to start adding different layout elements to it. So if I save this and run it, we're going to have Rochester Xamarin display in the navigation bar, but since we didn't apply any styling to our label, it's going to be super, super tiny. All right, so now we have Rochester Xamarin showing up here, and it's kind of tiny. But that's good, because now we're starting to use the title view as opposed to just having using the title from the content page element that I showed you originally. So this means I could start applying styles to it very easily. So let's say I wanted it to be big. So we want it to be 24 pixels, and I want it to be color will be red. Let's make it bold. And this is very similar to how I would be writing any of my my XAML markup in in a content section or wherever you'd be adding it on page.
I can already see how this is going to be really useful. I didn't realize it was that flexible.
Yeah, it's that flexible. It's pretty awesome. That's really hard on my eyes though, so we're gonna close that. Why did I pick green? Why didn't somebody stop me in red? So this is powerful. I'm not going to get into the exact implementation of where we came from, but I do for our audience has kind of got a wide range of skills here. So I'm going to go over it briefly. So before, what you would have to do is you would have to create what's called a custom renderer. And the way custom renderers work is you would create a shared interface in your app project. And then in your Android project and your iOS project, you would have to write custom implementations using the native APIs available in iOS and available in Android. And if you ran into a problem in one of those, you have to fix it in your custom renderer code. And what we commonly ran into is we'd be able to get something done on Android real easy, let's say, or iOS, and you'd be spending the next 2 weeks trying to figure out how to get it to look right on the other platform. And it never really worked exactly how you wanted it to. I remember there a project I was working on once. We must have spent 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, trying to get our navigation bar rendered to work just right, and with the different features that we needed to add into it, and we could never get it just right. Then again, we were doing stuff with gradient colors, which was kind of a nightmare. But so now, instead of having to do all of that, I can get going in a matter of 15 minutes and start doing customization here. So now that we got Rochester Xamarin showing up in our navigation bar, let's get a little bit more complicated here. Let's say I wanted to add a button that took us to the next page. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is I have to create a stack layout. And I'm going to set the orientation to horizontal. So I'm going to go across the page, and I'm going to move my label into that stack layout. Go. Realign my attributes here. All right. So since the title view is just like any other view element, we're going to need to create the stack layout, which will be the container for the rest of the items in our view stack here. So we're going to add another label. And I'm going to use my fancy image. That's going to be a right arrow. We're going to make that also 24. And I'm going to make the text color. We're going to make it white. And so now, if I start it back up, we'll have a right arrow label. All right, that's not in the right spots, so I'm going to move that over a little bit. So I'll add some more styling to this. So what am I looking for? Looking for horizontal options. It's going to be end. And that should move it all the way over. I'm putting air quotes around the should. Whenever I do positional layouts with stack layouts, I always run into problems getting it to work just right. What is it? Is it? I think I need to make this one say start as well. Or is it start and expand? I might need to cheat and look at my blog that I referenced earlier. Yep, I'm just going to take a quick look at my blog.
It's not cheating if you wrote the code before.
Yeah, I did write the code. I put together a pretty detailed solution here.
Yeah, I was looking at this earlier.
Where is it? Here we go. So we did horizontal, start, end. You know what? So we did horizontal, vertical options. Is, no, I don't care about that. So it's start. Maybe I need to add a third element in there to get that to work the right way. That doesn't make sense. Oh, you know what it is? I know what's wrong. We'll try start and expand. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is not a demo on start and expand and stack layouts. There we go. So now the arrow is over on the right side. And we can now wire up gesture recognizers to it to take tap events or do anything we want with it that we can in normal content page, which is powerful. So now we're getting to the point where we can really start adding some powerful customization to our navigation bar. And it's just, this is no different than regular XAML that you'd write on anywhere else in your application. So the next thing I wanted to go over was, right now we have text that looks very similar to how we would have had text if we just used the title. So if we don't have anything special, why use this? Oh, suppose you're working on an enterprise Xamarin app that is for some large organization, and they have department names that run off the screen constantly, and they want the name to be listed there in 2 lines. You can't do that with the title. It just runs off the screen and says ... But what we can do here is, I'm going to start typing lots of text that will run off the screen, hopefully. And what it's going to do is it's going to wrap that text automatically for us, so we don't need to worry about it. And once it loads, so it doesn't look perfect because of the way it wrapped the text, but the point still remains the same. You can't do this with a normal title. You just can't. And so now with the title view, I can start adding some more formatting to include those long names that I might have. And let's say we don't need that long of a name, but let's say we wanted to add, instead of a label, let's add a button. And I'm just going to write next instead of drawing my fancy arrow. And so we really only done visual stuff, and I talked about adding buttons and different events, but let's add one and see how easy it is to add that stuff to your navigation bar. So now we have a next button up here. Right now it doesn't do anything, but we've added it, and it's up there, and it's in the right spot, and it's pulled to the right side of the screen. And I still can't get over how easy it is now to just start adding content up there. So if we add an event to this,
Andrew, I've got a question.
Yes.
Do you have any control over the height of the title bar, or is it just fixed the way it's always been?
That's a very good question. I don't know. Let's find out. I don't think so. I mean, I could try. Maybe we could try a minimum height request of something large and see what happens. That you might need a custom renderer for. And I personally, I would not start with the navigation page unless you were tightly coupled to some feature involved with the navigation page.
Mm-hmm.
I would, yeah, it doesn't look like you can adjust that with, what I would end up doing is I would create some type of custom container that would take up that portion of the screen and then have almost like two layouts. And you can get away with that without even getting into the actual platform code, specific code. So
Yeah.
Turn on my sketchpad for a second. So like, let's say you wanted to have your navigation bar take up that amount of space. Can you guys see me drawing on the screen?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Yep.
So, I'm just going to write up here nav, and then we'll write content down here. So what I would end up doing is I would create this without a navigation, and I would create two content sections inside of a kind of like a user control, and then you can specify your nav and then inject in the content that you wanted using data templates. That goes way outside of this demo, but that's how I would solve that. And the reason why I would go with that approach is you'd still be working in shared code and you wouldn't have to write a single line of platform code.
Yeah.
Or you could go the route of writing custom renderers. I try to never do that unless I absolutely have to. But that is a good question about trying to set the height. It looks like we cannot. All right. So continue. We were going to add a wire up an event to that button. So I am going to add a clicked event, and we're going to create. I guess I'm going to have to do it the hard way. I'll call it onClicked. All right. So typically you'll select the new event handler, and it's going to scaffold the code for you. But since it yelled at me, oh, it's probably because I got the debugger running. Let me try that again. There we go. Perfect. So now, if I set a breakpoint here, what we're going to do is we're going to run the app. We're going to click the button, and it's going to bring us right here. And we'll let that load up. And it brought us right here. So now if we had any type of UI logic that we wanted to push a new page onto the stack, maybe display a message to the user, we can do that as well. And the theme of this demo has really been we can easily start adding a lot of different things to the title view, and it can get very complicated very quickly. You can even start adding images. I don't have my solution loaded up with any images, but I talked about it in the blog article. And I can go around and add lots of different things, but I wanted to open it up to everyone in the room if there was anything that they wanted us to see us try with the title view.
I definitely want to see one more thing. So if you stand up a second page and navigate to it, what does that title view look like? Do you get the out of the box back button that you normally get within navigation pages? How does
Yeah,
it behave on the second?
let's do it. That's a great question. So let's add another page, and I'm going to answer your question before we get started and say, as far as I know, it doesn't work where I can have a shared title view. You would have to create some type of shared control and reference that through the XAML. And let's say you have like a control called say you had a control called my title view. You know, you'd have to do something like that. Then comment this code out here. And that's what I had. That's exactly what I had to do on a project that I'm working on right now.
Makes sense. If you had so if you did have a second page that you're navigating to, like normally if you've got that navigation page wrapping your page, it puts in, like we get that default title bar like you see, like you showed in that step 2, right? After you wrapped it in the navigation page. I'm curious what it looks like if part of that title view is taken up by the back button on the left-hand side of the title view by default, or if you still have complete flexibility within that box.
Yeah, let's play with this a little. I went through that much faster than I thought I was going to. I guess that's how these things always go. So let's play with it a little. So what we're going to do is when we click the next button, we'll navigate to the page. What is this? A navigation push async. That's what it is. And I'll say new. What do I call it? New page. This is stretching my knowledge because I almost never use the default stuff in Xamarin.Forms.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm trying to ramp up a co-op student, and I'm so used to using Prism that I'm so spoiled by it. Trying to go back to the defaults, it's like working with 2 left hands.
When I did this, when we met last year and I did a presentation on Intro to Xamarin, I forgot halfway through my session that I was using non-standard features of Xamarin.Forms, and it's like, oh wait, I'm doing an intro session, and I already started talking about view model binding.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah, I remember that.
You get so spoiled by all the frameworks and dependencies that we bring in. Make our lives so much easier. But it does increase the learning curve, right?
It does, but you don't need all those things. And so let's so we wired up our button click just to recap what we're doing here. So on the main page, we have a label that specifies the title of our app, and we have a next button to go to the next page. The button clicked is going to be in the code behind here, which is your standard event handler, and we're going to push new page onto our view stack here. So if I click the next button, that brings us to the next page, and this is our new page. I didn't specify anything. It said welcome to Xamarin.Forms. So let's edit some of the content there. So we go to new page, and I'm going to say welcome to the new page. And we said, let's call it navigation page, title view. And I'm going to create a label, call it new page, give it a font size, give it a color, and give it some attributes. All right, we're going to make it big, white, and bold, and we'll see what happens here.
Yeah,
I really have no idea what's going to happen.
To see, yeah.
And I suspect the back button will still be there, but if it is there, I have some things we can try to remove it. So the back button's still there, so it's going to be there on both iOS and Android.
Yeah.
And that's convenient for going back. But if you got some non-standard view logic,
Yeah. So if you want to intercept that back button, there's no vent or anything that you can attach to. You're stuck
right?
with
What I can do
custom.
is has back button, set that to false, and when I run it, I would suspect the back button to not be there, and you can't you wouldn't be able to navigate back unless you use the hardware back button on Android, and on iOS there would be no way.
Yeah, you'd have to put a custom button that pops the page
Right.
from the navigation stack.
Right. So let's do it. This is fun. We got plenty of time here.
Yeah.
So if we created a stack layout here to hold all of our items. Oh, do that right. Let me call it horizontal. Oops. All right, and I'll close that. And let's create a button. I would say back. And let's have it say clicked. Event handle here. Gets me every time. I leave that debugger running. There we go. All right, so what we just did is we created a stack layout in our title view. Inside of that, we created a button. This is back on it. Make that a big B. And we created a label. And I wired up an event that will trigger when we hit the click. So let's run it and make sure all that stuff works before we proceed. All right. We're on our new page. It says welcome to the new page. We got a back button here. If I click back, nothing's going to happen. Our breakpoint hits. Perfect. So we are set to do our navigation portion. So now I can come in here and say, stop the debugger. Navigation page dot.
This is really interesting. I'm definitely going to put this in action to intercept that back button, because you can actually get at the you can intercept the Android back. You can handle that, but you could never handle that title bar back button.
Right.
Unless you replaced it in a renderer with something custom, or actually had some custom XAML that you're using in your template, like you were suggesting there.
There is a caveat to this, and that's the hardware back button, and you'll have to do a little bit of platform-specific code to intercept that. But let's not dive into that too much. So now we can add in our navigation.popasync, or whichever framework you're using to handle your navigation. I'll hit run, and that'll send it back to it'll pop this this page off the view stack. All right, we've loaded up our app. It says Rochester Xamarin. Next button. I'll click that. We're on our new page. If I click back, pops that page off the view stack, and we're back to the main page. So we're able to now, we go to that new page, override that that back button there and create any type of custom back button. For those of you that are new to Xamarin.Forms, the reason why this is so important is the back button uses a platform native default icon. So when you start running into problems when the iOS is a caret and Android is an arrow, and on top of that, you start running into bigger problems when your designers use something that's not a native back button. And that's why this is so important, because this used to be a very complicated task of getting a button here to display. And as I mentioned earlier about those custom renderers, the way buttons work in the navigation bar on iOS is very complex, and it's not the same way of thinking for as you do it on Android or in Xamarin.Forms, which made it a difficult task. And now we can just add the button in, which is cool. I'm glad that worked so well. I was worried.
Yeah, that's really great. Very nice.
Great. Any other curveballs for me to try? That was a fun one.
That's all I got. The height and seeing if you could replace that back button are the things that I was most curious about as soon as you started adding custom controls there.
Yeah. Let me see if there's always double check the topics I covered in the article. So this is kind of super informal. Going over multi-lines. This is a good screenshot. I'm really not trying to self-promote, but one of the things that's really nice about the TitleView that I wanted to point out is in an app that I'm working on right now, I was able to include a page title where it says my business name and have a company logo on the left. Then on the right, I was able to have a button to a page that's always there regardless of where you are in the application, which was very powerful because we always wanted access to that page no matter where you were in the app, and it made it very easy to render all of these things together in that navigation bar, and it really only took me a matter of 30 minutes to get it all implemented and working, at least the navigation portion of it. So I'm really happy with this feature. It's very simple once you start working with it, but it just saves you so much time.
Yeah, really nice.
All right. Well, that's going to segue into more into the Q&A portion of my presentation. Do you guys have any other questions on this or want to see more with it? No?
Yeah, I think you did a great job.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
nice demo.
Thank you.
Looks really good.
Well, then I will go back to the meetup page here. So just a couple of closing thoughts is we will be meeting, what did we say it was, the second Wednesday? Is that right, Rob? Let me just double check my notes.
Yeah, I think we said the second Wednesday of every month.
All right, yeah. So we're gonna meet the second Wednesday of every month. So we are going to be looking for somebody to present next month. I will schedule the meetup later this week, and we're going to meet on Wednesday, the 13th of February at 6:30, and we'll do another session for someone to talk some more Xamarin.Forms stuff, or Xamarin stuff in general.